All right, so it's 10:08 already. I'm going to start the class. Okay, I checked. Yes, I'm here. This is the one. I'm just going to double check that I'm in the right meeting. Okay, because I have a lot of things as you can see here. So yes, the 19, 8 to 9, that's usually our schedule. So I'm here. This is the other one. Yeah, and this is the sixth one. And this is one that I don't know why it's still there. But yeah, okay, I'm in the right place, just in case. So I'm starting the class. Again, I hope you can join today, but I have to keep covering the contents to see, all right, how it goes. So far, and before, perhaps as I'm trying to wait for you, I'm going to work on a review of things that we already covered and things that have to be clear for you, all right? Now, we're talking about first simple present and present continuous. I know that you know it, right? We practiced it and it's pretty clear, right? Routine, things that are happening now, putting emphasis on something that is happening during a period of time, right? During a temporary period of time, then that's the one for the present continuous. Then suggestions, right? We have many ways to express suggestions. You mentioned them all, right? You have how about, we know that how about and what about are different. We have let's, we have why, don't, right? Or why not? So we have a lot of options to give suggestions. Then two and enough, that also, right? And you describe those words pretty well. And we know that in this case, one of them is related to something kind of negative, right? And the other one that is only sufficient for something in a specific, or perhaps not if it's a negative, right? So that's too hard to do, or that's good enough for you. Then the present perfect, that is the indefinite past, right? We don't say yesterday. You also mentioned that, and it was pretty good, right? When you say, I have done it before, we don't say when, we just say that we have done something. Models of advice, we took a look at that, all right, when we were learning should and ought to. Then future, we know about will, about be going to. You described those two, right? And you did it pretty good. So let's remember, right? When you talk about predictions, if you have evidence, be going to. If you don't have evidence, will. When you talk about plans or deciding, okay, when that decision was made before and it's a plan, be going to. When that decision was made at the moment of speaking, will, right? Or when it is going to be made. And that's it for future. You have more usages, right? For promises, refusals, and but the ones that we want to know over there are those two, all right? Those predictions and plans. Then ability, I covered this right in our class. Remember, ability is going to be can when it's present, all right, or future, but a very specific future, right? Because it's not the real can is just present, but it can be used for a future intention. But the future form of can is different, right? That is going to be will be able to, right? But again, going back, can, could, past, and be going to, that can be, not be going to, sorry, be able to, that is past. I was sorry. Yes, I was able to, I'm getting confused. I was able to play the piano when I was younger, past. I am able to do it now, present, and I will be able to understand everything in 2 years, right? Future. And that way of mentioning future ability, I will be able to, that's the real future of can, right? Then, after ability, we got to see one more time simple past and present perfect, right? The difference between those two. And we know how, all right, we understand how they, right, let me go. These tenses are used in specific situations for past. One of them is called definite past, and the other one is called the indefinite past. Okay? Now, um, Yeah, and we were all right doing some comparison over there. Then possessive pronouns. Okay, I believe that we also got to see this. Let me just verify we did. All right. Yes, we were comparing, and even the questions with whose. Yeah, we did it, right? Those. So to recap that before, because this is going to be today's lesson, let's remember, right? Possessive, we have two types of possessive, right? And we have the possessive adjectives and we have the possessive pronouns. I'm still here. I'm going back here. All right, pronouns and adjectives. The adjective is always before something that it describes. So a noun, for instance, and you have something like my computer, right? My, the adjective, the possessive adjective, and computer, the noun that it's describing because it is my computer. But possessive pronouns replace the object, right? Remember, pronouns replace nouns. For example, Mary, instead of Mary, you say she. That's a subject pronoun, right? Instead of I'm calling Mary, you say I'm calling her. So that's an object pronoun. And in this case, instead of my cell phone, we say mine. And that's a possessive pronoun, right? It replaces that noun and it works as one noun itself. Because remember, you can use this as subject sometimes. And you can say, mine are over there. You're talking about two objects, right? Are those your books? I say, no, mine are over there, right? Or his are over there as well. Again, because I'm talking about books. But that's the logic. We got to see also the questions with whose, all right? But that's it. Again, that's pretty much it. Now I'm going to get into this. Well, I hope you can also watch today's class. Uh, Gina, I'll have some updates. So I'm going to do that later on. Adjectives and adverbs. Now, again, this is pretty basic, but it has to be clear. So, adjectives, I was just talking about adjectives, right? Possessive adjectives, but general adjectives, what do? They describe people, they describe objects, they describe situations, right? Abstractions, they describe. And they work with nouns, okay? A big house, or the house is big. What is it describing? It is describing the house, right? And what's the description? Big. And that's a pretty simple example, right? But you can say, yesterday I was taking a look at national television or I was watching, but no, I was taking a look at the national television, I don't know, right, program, and it was really interesting. So there we can have some adjectives. In this case, national is one adjective, right? National television, or international, or new, old, and you have simple adjectives and complex adjectives. But that's an adjective. An adverb, it also describes, right, many things. In this case, an adverb can describe adjectives, an adverb can describe adverbs, an adverb can describe verbs. And mainly, we talk about verbs. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Let's read. It says, we use adjectives to describe nouns and pronouns. Adjectives can come before nouns or after linking verbs. As in the example that I gave you, right before the noun, a big house before the noun. Or you can have it after linking verbs. What's a linking verb, for example? Is, the verb to be, right? The house is big. So those are the ways in which you can use these adjectives, right? I'm going to move my right here a little bit. Now, let's go to the next part. Before nouns, this is pretty simple. You know this. This is a basic way of using adjectives, right? The adjective in blue, the noun in green. Big house, that's what I was talking about. So, she is a beautiful girl. Beautiful is the description, the adjective that is describing girl. He's a handsome man, right? He's a handsome man. That case, the same. The adjective, handsome, and man, the noun. There you have, it is a hard exam. So pretty basic, right? We know this. We are just being sure that everything is clear. Now, the most common verb, of course, is the verb to be. But you have these other linking verbs: look, seem, act, smell. Why? Because they are not actions in a certain way. You're describing something that is more of a state, okay? A state. So, for example, when you say, right, that looks good. We should say well, because well is the adjective and look, it's an action. It seems to be an action. But in that case, not, right? It is not. It is just the way it looks, the characteristic that it has. So it is a linking verb. So here we can say he looks handsome, because that is not an action, it is a state. All right, it's a characteristic of his, or I think, or we think that it is like that. Okay, so remember, we can use it with linking verbs after the pronoun, after the noun, and the adjective is afterwards. Here you have some important adjectives. Some of them, all right, I was talking about some of them. So bad, big, different, easy, economic, free, full, good, great, hard, high, important, international, large, little, local, long, low, national, new, old, political, possible, public, real, recent, right, small, social, special, strong, true, young. Those are adjectives. And all of them can be used in the same way, right? That's a new place, or that place is new, right? That is a national product, or that product is national, real, recent, full, free, economic, easy, different, big, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's adjectives. Again, it's weird, right? That you're not here. I thought that you were going to be at 10. Okay, but let's continue. Adverbs. Adverbs are used to describe verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. They are often, but not always, okay, made by adding ly to the adjective. Again, in most of the cases, but not always. So, adverbs can be located in many places, okay, but in simple sentences, they are going to be placed where? After the verb. So, a verb plus an adverb is verb, run, and the adverb quickly, right? Run quickly. So it's how. Here the question is like how. How does she sing? She sings beautifully. How does he speak? He speaks loudly. How do they study? Hard, right? So we're talking about how something happens or happened or is happening, all right? Or will happen. So again, the action singing, you don't say she sings beautiful, right? No, she sings beautifully. He speaks loudly. Now they study hard. Why? Because remember, not all of them, we have exceptions, right? We have these irregular words that they sometimes are going to remain the same, or some of them have a very interesting change. Now, one more time, how do we make adverbs? First, the most common thing to do is to add ly. Okay, ly. So careful is the adjective. He is always careful. So we have the adjective after linking verb, right? Is. He is always careful. But when you say she puts her glasses, or the glasses, sorry, down carefully, we're not describing her. We're not describing that girl. We're describing how she does, or in this case, she did this action, because this is past, right? So how did she put the glasses down? She put the glasses down carefully. Then quiet, the adjective, quietly, the adverb. This is a quiet room. Same. You have a linking verb, but she spoke quietly. That's how she spoke. It's not describing her, is describing how she did an action. All right, then bad. This coffee is bad. Same logic. Badly, the adverb. He sings badly. Right? Then we continue with this. But we have here one rule, right? If it ends in Y, you change it to, sorry, yes, it's okay. You change it to I and you add ly. Okay, so you have happy, happily, gentle, gently, and that's because if it ends in E, you drop the E and add Y as it says over there. So happy or happy, in this case, is an adjective. So a linking verb, right? She looks very happy. That's a linking verb. That's why we use an adjective. Happily is an adverb, and as adverbs, we have to use it with adjectives, adverbs, or verbs. The most common thing to do is to use it with verbs. So he sang happily. How did he sing? He sang happily. And gentle, the adjective, it's a gentle cat. This is the rule of before the noun, right? Gentle cat. And gently, right, the adverb. So, sorry, he stroked the cat. How? Gently, right? That's the same logic. Now, as I mentioned before, not all of the adjectives are, well, can change to adverbs by adding ly. We have exceptions. Fast. We don't say fastly, even though, all right, it is kind of more common now. People are saying fastly. But fast is one of those adjectives that don't change, all right? At least in grammar, in traditional grammar, it's fast and fast. That's a fast car and she walks fast. But the translation to Spanish can be different, okay? But the idea is that they are the same. Early, early is adjective and early is adverb. You don't add or take the ly away, right? So she was early for the meeting. Same logic. Okay, you're describing her. She was early. It was her. But early as adverb, he arrived early. Okay, being in that place and before the time. Okay, so again, here it's the same as fast over there. Then, good, this is irregular. Here it changes. Good is an adjective. So that is a good book. But well is an adverb. So she did well on the exam. Okay, she did well on the exam. Hard, here, this is interesting. I believe this happens with this and late. Yes, with hard and late, there is something special because the meaning is different. You have the word with ly, but it's not the adverb. As an adjective, maths is hard. As an adverb, she tried hard. But we don't say hardly because hardly means it says almost none, almost never. It could be. You can say, right, I hardly see that. Okay, it's something that doesn't happen very often. And again, that's why this is not the adverb of hard. Okay, the adverb of hard is hard. Hardly means something different. Late, the same logic, he is always late, but as an adverb, he got up late this morning. Lately is also an adverb, but it means recently. Okay, so lately is not the adverb of late. The adverb of late is late. Okay, got up late. We don't say he got up lately. No, because lately again means recently. Something that just happened and you're putting emphasis in that idea. Okay, and there you go. That's the lesson. I wanted to cover just one. I'm going to cover one more because again, I need to take advantage of this time because you can watch then the class to reinforce everything in detail and you know. So I am in. Again, I verified everything was in order. Yes. Let's go to tag questions. Okay, and I'm about to finish. Then it means that I'm going to be starting also with other details later on in Gina, because we're finishing the contents. We're going to start with the contents for the next part, the next course. But of course, we're still going to be working on this one, at least in terms of um, the things that we have to cover. And one more thing, right? I just communicate that, Gina, but I hope you can watch the class. Remember, please, about next week. You didn't reply to my messages yet, but I'm going to share this with you, or I'm going to tell you to watch the class again, and I'm going to give you the reminder. Okay? Please, again, if you accept, that's going to be great. If that's the case, I already have, well, the acceptance of all your partners, perhaps, right? Other people that are studying here and they are with me. I got, all right, that acceptance. I'm going to be working with them directly on July the 10th. It means this next week will be off. But please let me know if that will, let's say, represent an inconvenience for you. That's going to be important for me to know, Gina. But again, let's finish with this presentation over here. Tag questions and negative questions, okay? So, tag questions are very special questions, short questions that you use at the end of statements to look for verification or confirmation, okay? It's very common when you are having a short conversation and you ask a tag question, right? It's very common. But again, that's the logic. And negative questions, but let's take a look at that later on. Use tag questions to verify something that you believe is true. Okay, that's important. For example, if you know a person and you remember the name, but you're not sure, okay, you ask the following: you're John, aren't you? So this aren't you is like right, correct, as we're going to see in the next part. So you're verifying information, and that's what we call tag questions, right? And the tag questions depend on what? They depend on this. So if this is affirmative, this is negative. If you use here one auxiliary that is the verb to be, here you use the verb to be. If you have a different auxiliary, you have to use that auxiliary. And instead of John, you say you. Because in this case, again, we don't use these names, okay? Even though here it has to be John, right? But we don't say nouns over here. We have to use pronouns. So you are John, it equals to, you are John, aren't you? Equals to you are John, right? You're John, correct? Okay, so a question. Look at all these tenses: simple present with other verbs, simple past, past continuous, and so on. If you have the verb to be, you have to use the verb to be, right? That's a very important rule. People tend to forget that. So she's Italian, isn't she? Here, they live in London. Here, we don't have the auxiliary, but we know that it has one auxiliary. How do we change this to negative? They don't live in London. So we know that do is the auxiliary, and the negative in this case, because this is affirmative, this is negative, don't they. Okay, then the person continues, we're working tomorrow, aren't we? Why? Because the rule, we have the verb to be, we use the verb to be. Then it was called yesterday. Was is the verb to be in past. So we have the verb to be, we use the verb to be. It was called yesterday, wasn't it? Then he went to the party last night. That's simple past with other verbs. Again, we don't see the auxiliary here, but we know that it is. What's the past of this one? Okay, you say that. Okay, lived. In this case, all right. Went. Okay, he went to the party last night, didn't he? Affirmative, negative. This is negative. He didn't go to the party, so we know that did is the form, all right, of well, the auxiliary that we use in this case. And you use it in negative question or negative, sorry, sentences and in questions. So once, because it's the verb to be, you repeat the verb to be. But when it's a different verb, it doesn't have the auxiliary directly written, but you have to know that it is did, right? Then past continuous, we also have the verb to be in past, so we only use that, right? We were waiting at the station, weren't we? Then future simple will, it's very basic. So she'll come at 6, won't she? All right. Then you have, of course, future, you have to use future auxiliaries. Then model. Okay, so he can help you, can he? And we have the same idea for, if we go to the next part, negative. It's the same, it's just that the first part is negative, so the second part is affirmative. We aren't late, are we? She doesn't have any children, does she? The bus isn't coming, is it? She wasn't at home yesterday, was she? They didn't go out last Sunday, did they? You weren't sleeping, were you? They won't be late, will they? And they can speak Arabic? That's can she? Can she? Sorry, right? Because the intonation. Now, with that, we're good in terms of covering this part. Here we have something interesting, okay? These are interesting examples in the present perfect, and we have to be careful with the word have, okay? So, you have traveled there before, haven't you? We know that have is an auxiliary, and how do we know that? Because they are together, and here we have the verb in the, well, in the past participle, right? It's not noticeable, but it's the past participle. He hasn't read the book yet. Has he? No, he hasn't. And here one more time is has, and then you have read the book yet. Has she? Then she always, or she has, sorry, I don't know why I'm not reading. She has been studying for hours, hasn't she? Same logic. All right, affirmative, negative, and using so. And they haven't been paying attention in continuous form, but the same idea. And in all these cases, we have haven't, has he? Sorry. Again, it's just that it's right now it's too late. Well, I have to also do some other things, but I'm usually doing them like without speaking. All right. Haven't been paying attention, sorry, have they? So we are taking a look at present perfect examples because we got to see the present perfect and it is important to reinforce that. So the steps, we already worked on that, but let's be sure that we understand this logic before finishing the class, okay? Because today with this lesson, we have to finish. And then remember, please, next week we won't have the classes. It's going to be the following week to that. Okay, so it is a Monday, the 10th, July the 10th, that we are resuming our classes. Next week, please, we don't have. So, Luis likes pasta. Mary didn't like that pasta. Affirmative, negative, but those are our ideas. Now, the first thing is we have to identify the tense. Likes, simple present. Didn't, simple past. We know that the auxiliaries in simple present, they are do and does, and the auxiliary in simple past, it is did. Okay, it's important to be sure of that. And again, it's mainly when you're learning this, as you have the knowledge, this is reinforced. Write a comma, right, and the auxiliary in the opposite form. So again, in this case, if it's negative, affirmative. If it's affirmative, negative. We know that, right? Luis likes pasta, doesn't what? We're going to complement that later on. Mary didn't like that pasta, did. So in the first one is present, it's past. Sorry, I'm making those mistakes. It's present, and the auxiliary is does. All right, and of course it has to be negative. Doesn't he? Mary didn't like that pasta, did she? Right? Affirmative, negative, negative, affirmative. And this is what I mentioned in the previous one as well. The pronouns, right? You don't say doesn't Peter or did Mary, or doesn't, in this case, not Peter, Luis, right? I'm gonna write Peter down up there. But you say he, she, it, we, you, they, pronouns, right? Those pronouns. So Luis likes pasta, doesn't he? And Mary didn't like that pasta, did she? Okay? Now, important, this is what I mentioned before. If you have the verb to be, the auxiliary is the verb to be. Where? Weren't you? Are? Aren't you? Is? Isn't. All right? Isn't he? Is? Isn't she? And so on and so forth. All right, sorry. Yeah, it's just that when I'm working like that, it's also very likely to feel even more tired. All right, when we have an interaction, it's not happening that way. But anyways, if we have the verb to be, we use the verb to be. Okay, one more time. Where, the verb to be, so weren't you, are, aren't you, is, isn't it, isn't she. We have one exception. We're going to learn that later on. Actually, just yes, we're going to take a look at that now. After this, okay? But if we have the simple tenses, this is the opposite. You don't see the auxiliary. She likes dancing. What's the auxiliary? We don't see it, but we know it's do or does. You liked the food. What's the auxiliary? We know that is did. Okay? So she likes dancing, doesn't she? Does is the auxiliary for simple present with third person. And you liked the food, didn't you? Right? Did is the auxiliary verb of simple past. Only, of course, the thing that in the sentence is going to tell you that it is present or past. In simple tenses, it is the auxiliary. Okay? And these are the exceptions that I was mentioning before. You got imperative, do your homework, study, go there, don't go there, and the, let's say, the tag question in imperatives is will you. Okay, in any case, open the window, will you? Come with me, will you? Okay, so confirmation for something that is very strong, it's possible. Let's play poker, shall we? So let's, what's the tag question? Shall, because shall is also that idea of giving invitations to something. All right, shall we play poker? Let's play poker. I am your friend. If you have am, you have to use what? Aren't, for instance. Okay, but again, that's the basic thing. And then we're talking about the negative questions because it's part of today's topic. And to finish today, you have negative yes no questions to check information, right? Aren't you the new recruiter? Yes, I am. No, I'm not. Don't you like this movie? Because I'm kind of surprised, right? You're saying bad things about it, but don't you like this movie actually? Why are you doing that? Because I'm a critic, right? I have to be neutral. I have to say those things and so on. Didn't you travel to Bolivia last month? Yes, I did. No, I didn't. Haven't you gone? Yes, haven't you gone to that place twice already? Yes, I have. No, I haven't. And there you go. That's again everything. You have a list of links that are very important to take into account, please. And that's pretty much it. Right now, again, I'm going to be finishing the class right now because I need to do some things afterwards. I thought that you were going to be here at 10, but also that's something very important. Gina, on Thursdays, this is just an exception because I have those activities later on, but I usually have to be doing some things again, tops like 10, 15, 10, 30. Okay, that's important, please. So it means that Thursdays we are usually going to have the meeting, and perhaps not usually, but it's going to be fixed at 9:15 or 9:30. Okay, that is going to be the case. But again, that's it. Please take a look at these elements if you got the time. Check the class, and you will let me know perhaps tomorrow the questions that you got. Okay, I'll see you there. Have a good night or have a good rest of the day.